Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now this is quite a large piece of pine. Now I don't usually turn pine, but it's such a big piece. The grain looks not too bad at all, so I think we're going to give it a go. Now this was brought into the workshop by a gentleman called Bob Edwards, who asked to come along and just see the workshop, so I'm more than happy to entertain anybody who wants to come and have a look. And he brought me this as a present. Now I don't usually require presents when people come to visit, but he brought this along, so I think it's only right we do something with it. Now my son and his partner have just moved into their first home together, so I think I'm going to make a present for them with this. So the first job is to figure out how to get it on the lathe and what best to do with it. Now the wood itself is in pretty good condition. There's no sign of rot or anything like that, but we do have a small split which ends about there. So one of the first jobs to do would be to cut this piece off around there. Now that's fine, we're not going to lose anything really from it because it's longer than it is wide, so that's not going to be a problem. Corner to corner on there is 20 inches. So that's too wide to get on the lathe. So I'd need to cut off a couple of the corners as well to get it kind of half round. Now whoever had this piece before me, or before Bob as well, had tried to start cutting it off with a bandsaw. That's not too, I'm not going to worry too much about that at the moment. That's not really going to harm us. So I think the first steps are to take this side off here, cut off a couple of these corners, mark out the center, and figure out how to get it on the lathe. So I'll get started with that, but also do stick around for this one because we have a big announcement a little bit later on. Okay, that's all nicely trimmed up, good enough to get on the lathe, I think. So I'll just quickly find the center again, which is about there. Now I am going to mount this with a worm screw. You may think that it'd be better off with a faceplate, and you may be right. But yes, it's a big piece of wood, but it is pine, so it's not as heavy as some of the pieces I've had on here before. But one thing I am going to do is take off my normal jaws and replace it with the Victory chuck, because the worm screw is a little bit longer, and also the jaws here are just that bit more robust. Okay, we're nice and safely on the lathe. It's a big old piece of wood, but we've got it fairly well balanced. Any inconsistencies will go in the not too distant future once we start working this round. Initially we're going to be starting to turn at about 550 RPM. I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Now as I mentioned before, this is going to be a gift for my son and Cal, so I have a few ideas what I want to do with it, but it all depends on how this looks once we've got it into the shape we want. So let's worry about that first. Okay, as progress is predictably slow until we can get this turned round. Now, pine is notoriously a horrible wood to turn. I've never turned one for the channel before, and there's probably a million good reasons why you should never do it at home. It's fantastic wood to practice on, but with this being such a nice big piece, I thought that, well, I am hoping that we can get a nice piece out of it. I know I've said this was for my son, and if it isn't up to standard at the end, then I'm not going to give it to him. I'll find a better piece of wood and do what I'm wanting to do with. But we'll keep going with this and see what it turns out like. Okay, right, I feel like I've been turning for hours, but we're starting to see a bit of progress being made. I had a quick go with the carbides and they didn't do too badly, especially the roughing tool. But I'm going to carry on with my ball gouge. Now, I think I might just try and get this round first of all and then start working back into the middle, because I'm sick of fighting these cuts going up this way. So I'm going to give myself a small break, get this round, and then start working it back in the other way while I take a breather. Okay, that's coming on. You can tell the problem with pine. We've got these enormous areas of tear out. Once we can get the speed up higher and we can start turning uphill with a freshly sharpened ball gouge, then that is going to get easier. And the tear out is going to hopefully disappear. But we need very sharp tools and we need to be able to turn an awful lot quicker than we're doing right now. Okay, right, I got up to about 850 RPM on that last cut. Although we've still got an awful lot of tear out there, there is signs of it starting to improve. If you look at the, this is all end grain, so the tear out's always going to be worse than the end grain, but on the side grain, as you can see, it's starting to look all right. Now we've got a few of these splits from the surface, so hopefully they're all going to be gone once we've got this to shape. There's also a few little worm damage marks as well, but they'll be gone as well. Right, what shall I do? Right, I think I'll try a few more cuts going this way, then I'll turn it around and start cutting, hopefully uphill at a faster speed, and we can get rid of all these areas of problem and start worrying about shape. Okay, I've just moved the camera around to give you an idea of the problem we're having with this end grain. Now, pine isn't as strong as a normal hardwood, and the fibres in here just tear out when you try and cut it. So I really need to know if I can get a decent finish on this off the tool. I mean, it's okay there, but you're cutting along the grain, you're not cutting across it. So I'm just going to do a few cuts along here, uphill, with this lathe going as fast as I can get it, and keeping safe, obviously, with a tool that is as sharp as I can make it. So I need to know if I can get this over the finishing line now before I take it too far. Okay, so there is some hope. The rest of it's pretty nice. Just the end grain. Okay, there's definitely hope. Right, we'll carry on. Okay, now we know we have the possibility of getting this to a reasonable finish. We're going to start creating a shape. I want to lose this depth here that we've got as I've been turning it down. So we're going to start creating a foot, I think about another ½ an inch further in, and that will help us get rid of this flat bit here and some of these fractures that were on the surface. Okay, starting to take shape. You may have noticed on the couple of those cuts there that my hand started here and ended up down here. It's because the shavings coming off are really quite warm and getting a bit burny. Right, continue taking this down. We've still got these fractures to possibly remove, although I'm starting to wonder if what I've got planned for this, then maybe better staying there. We've only got on this side, which is a slight shame if I was to leave them. Okay, right, I'll carry on with this. I'll take this to a natural conclusion for the foot and then worry about these fractures on the side here a little bit later on. I may decide to get rid of them. Okay, I've just cleared a bit of area away on the foot there because I want to try and mark up where my tenon's going to be. I did consider using a recess for this one, but I don't know if the pine is going to be strong enough to have jaws expanded into it. So we're going to do a tenon. That will work fine. So we'll take this in about ½ an inch to give us a nice big tenon, and then we'll create a foot. Then we'll take some very, very slow cuts at high speed with a very, very sharp tool and try and get this surface as good as we can before we start sanding. Well, that was stupid. Rather than get myself into the right position to make that cut, I decided to try and work around the camera, and that wasn't a very, very smart thing of me to do. Right, are we still running fairly true? We've broken that. I think I've destroyed what I had of my tenon. So let's go through that process again, but do it properly this time, Holton. Okay, right, there's a good, strong, nice thick tenon for when we turn it around. Base isn't looking too bad, a bit feathery, but we can sand that. So let's sharpen up our bowl gouge as much as we can. Take some really, really slow cuts and try and get rid of all this end grain problem. I could keep on trying all day to get it better, but I don't think I'm going to. Right, I'm going to set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I'll bring you back when we're done. Okay, sanding was pretty hard, but it's okay. We've sanded up to 180 because we don't need to go any higher because of the next stage we're doing. But before I can start that, I need to get rid of a lot of these shavings that are around because they could prove dangerous. Okay, I've got rid of the vast majority of shavings, so hopefully we're in a nice safe position to go to the next stage, which is burning. One thing that pine does do very well is burn. I'm sure you know that already. But what we're going to do is we're going to char the surface as much as we can and then wire wool it, which is then going to hopefully give us an amazing texture. After that, I think I'm going to dye it black. I know it's not everybody's taste, but this is for my son and I'm fairly sure that he is going to love it. Right, now I have taken precautions. I've got a fire extinguisher behind me. I've opened the doors in the workshop. I have taped up the smoke detector purely because it's connected to the rest of the house, and if the alarm goes off, everybody's going to be in a very bad mood with me. So we don't want that, so I have taped it up. If it does go off, I'm in real trouble and you may hear me swear. Right, so I've got a blowtorch. I'm going to take this nice and slowly. I'm going to put some gloves on and we're just going to char it as much as we dare. Okay, first pass done. That is quite a transformation. Now I do want to go a little bit further than that, but I'm just going to let things settle for a second. You can hear the wood straining and stressing against itself. So I just want everything to happen when that's going to happen. These lines in the side are opening up a little bit, as I expected. Okay, right, let's have another go. Oh, awesome. Right, round these edges here on the end grain, we're starting to get splits going that way, which look absolutely amazing. I love that. Right, we'll let this just do what it's going to do. I think we'll go around one more time. Okay, right, we're going to let this cool down. See how it looks. Okay, we're on a quick break in the proceedings just to announce that in the next few weeks we are going to be hitting 60,000 subscribers, so it is time to do another giveaway. When that is hit, I'm going to be making a very, very special piece to give to one of you, and the way to win it is to make sure that you have commented in at least one video since our last giveaway. Every time you comment, it counts as one entry, and you can enter as many times as you like. Now, apart from the giveaway piece, we're also going to be giving away 2 3/8" ball gouges that has been specifically made for the event by Record Power. They very, very kindly put my name and signature on the shaft as well. So if you want to be involved, make sure you've subscribed, make sure you've commented, and the very best of luck. Okay, that's looking really, really nice. Now, in the past, to remove the charring, I've spun up the lathe and I've just used a wire brush or some wire wool to take it off, and that sometimes can leave scratches on the surface. So this time, I may end up doing it, but this time I'm just going to quickly see if my flappy disc will do it without leaving any scratches. That's really, really worked well. Just wonder if this camera, hopefully this camera can pick it up, but there's such a wonderful texture now on that, especially with these cracks we've got on. I absolutely adore it. Right, I'm going to let this cool down all the way, and then we're going to come back on and do something else to it. Okay, this is all nicely cooled and ready for us to do something else to it. Now, for those of you who watch a lot of my videos, will probably remember an oak lamp I made a couple of months ago, which I am also giving to my son, and that was black on the outside with silver on the inside. It was silver on the inside where the wood had rotted away. I'll leave a link to that at the end if you want to take a look. But as I'm giving that lamp to my son as well for their new house, I want this to match. So I have spoken to them, and they would like this to be black to match the lamp. So we're going to turn this black. I'm going to use an Indian ink, which does the job very, very well. You are still going to be able to see the grain. In fact, you'll probably be able to see it a little bit better because it'll be an even colour and the actual texture in it will really, hopefully, pop out. Right, I'm going to apply it with a bit of sponge. This is just an offcut from a bit of car sponge. Right, it may take a couple of coats, but we'll let this first one dry and then see what we think. I'll try and follow the grain lines. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Right, we'll let this dry and then figure out if we want to put another coat on it or not. Okay, this is nice and dry now, so I think I'm just going to put one more coat on and then leave it at that. If it doesn't go fully black, I'm not going to worry too much. I'm not doing the bottom, by the way, because we've got to take the tenon off eventually, and that'll all be sanded back, so there's no point in putting any on there. If you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things. It doesn't cost a penny and it makes a huge difference to us. I think we're just about there. Right, I'm going to let this dry again. Now, it was my original intention to use a silver embellishing wax on it, but I'm really not sure. I absolutely love the look that we've got on this now, and I would hate to take any chances and have that disappear or go too far by putting an embellishing wax on. So when this is dry, we'll come back, put a finish on to protect it, and then if in the future they do want an embellishing wax on it, then I'll put it on for them. But at the moment, I am not inclined to do so. I love it just as it is. Right, we'll let this dry and then come back on and put a finish on it. Okay, it's all nicely dry. So I don't want to put a hard wax on here because if you put a hard wax on, it's going to fill up in the gaps and crevices we've got, and it's going to look awful. So we'll put a nice soft wax on. So I'm going to put on mineral oil and beeswax finish that I made up a little while ago. The Howard Feeden wax would also be ideal for this, but I think this will give it a little bit more luster. It's also completely food safe, so we'll be putting the same one on the inside, and then the guys can use it for anything they want. We'll put a good healthy amount on this. Just let it sit on the surface for 10-15 minutes. Just let it get into there and protect the wood, and then I'll come back and buff it. And then I've got to try and figure out how to hollow out the inside. I hope it doesn't give me as much grief as the outside does. Well, I know it's going to, so there's no point in worrying about it. It's going to be horrible. Right, as I say, I'll let this sit on the wood for about 20 minutes, then buff it in. If I feel that it needs another coat, then I'll do that as well at the same time. But apart from that, I shall bring you back when it's all done and we're hollowing this out. Okay, we've got it turned round. Now we're nice and safely held again in a nice big set of jaws and with tailstock. So there's nothing really left to do except to start hollowing this out. Now I did consider coring it, but the only thing I would use the piece you take out for is a form or for a jam chuck for something else. And I've got plenty of those, so we're just going to hollow out as normal. Initially turning at about 900 RPM and carrying on with a 1/2 inch ball gouge. Right, hollowing's going well. You can certainly see a stark difference here between where the end grain is and where the side grain. That's all turning nice and beautifully and smooth, and as soon as you hit the end grain, it's just all shattering. We're having the same problems with the edge on as well. So we're going to have to treat that with a great deal of care when we come to the finishing cuts on the edge. I mean, I have done a few already, but I thought they would be fine. I may just have to sand those flat as opposed to trying to turn them. Right, we'll carry on. Okay, all going well. The side walls are nice and smooth. We get to the end grain again, and we've got this tear out that we had before. So when it comes to finishing this off, we're going to have to sharpen up the bowl gouge again and try and get a clean up cut as possible. Otherwise we're going to be left with sanding it for ages again. But we'll do what we can to give this piece the best finish possible. Okay, progress is still going good. My anchor point for the tailstock snapped halfway through that, so I took it away, took it down a bit and then put it back in. I'm not quite ready yet to lose that little safety net. Okay, that's virtually got all the end grain. There's still a few bits, but I never expected it to work that well. Fantastic. Right, let's clear out some more of this centre. Right, wonderful. Right, I think the tailstock can be taken away now. We can clear this centre area and then we're nearly done. That is fantastic. I never thought we would manage to get that good a finish on pine on these inside walls. Whoever knew, eh? Right, let's take you away. Looks even better under the light, doesn't it? I've got to turn the light on. Looking good. I'm just going to, out of curiosity more than anything else, I'm just going to put a scraper across the bottom here to see how well it cleans it up. Theoretically, it should do a fantastic job. It's okay. A little fluffy, but nothing the lightest of sandpaper won't touch and deal with, which I think is what we're going to do now. Now, we do have snags out of the edge, and I've got a reasonably good idea that if I try to flatten it off with a bowl gouge, the exact same thing will happen again. I'll just end up with these little clips out. So I think I'm going to do that with sanding. Actually, I'll just try once more to smarten up this edge. And if it doesn't work this time, then I'll just do it all with sanding. Okay, right, alright, fair enough. I don't know what I was doing the other time, but that's worked a charm. Okay, right, I'm going to set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I'll bring you back when we're done. Okay, I don't usually stop between sanding, but this is working so well I thought I'd better tell you. 2-inch head, 3-inch pad, and then a 5-inch disc. And it's just making mincemeat of this end grain. Absolutely amazing. Never seen anything like it. Right, sorry, I'll carry on. Marvellous. That went way better than I expected. I thought I'd be on for a few hours doing that, but when I discovered the different pad and size disc combination, it was a breeze. Well, a relative breeze. It was still a complete pain, but far easier than it should have been. Right, this is just a bit of isopropyl alcohol, just wiping on to get any of the last bits of dust off. Right, when this dries, I'm going to come back and put on a sealer. Now, we're not going to burn this side, but we are going to make sure that it's well protected, so it's going to be long lasting and food safe. Okay, all nice and dry, so I'm going to go on with a blonde shellac sealer. This will help soak into the end grained areas for when we come to put the final finish on. Whoever thought pine could look so nice? I must admit, at the start I felt a little bit like I was being nasty making my kids a bowl made out of pine, but I guess it doesn't matter if you're using a blank that costs just a few pounds, or if you're using a blank that costs £1,000. It's the love and attention that you put into the piece and the meaning behind it that means everything. So I have no problems with giving my son a bit of pine, because I've loved making this, and I hope it brings them a lot of joy in the future. Right, we'll let this dry, and then we'll come back on, I think, with an abrasive paste. Okay, that's all nice and dry. So we're going to go on with an abrasive paste. This will help fine up the surface, and also the oils inside will help protect it as well. Remember to always wear safety specs when you're rubbing this in. We'll start this speed off about 500 RPM and then slowly increase it up to about 7, maybe 800 at the end. Okay, wiping off excess, again with a bit of isopropyl alcohol. Just let this evaporate. Okay, all nice and dry. So I can go back on with our beeswax and mineral oil finish. I'm going to apply a couple of coats of this over the next day or so, just to allow it to really saturate the wood and protect it. After that, it'll need recoating about every 6 to 12 months depending on use, but it is going to be perfectly food safe, and it should hopefully keep its luster as well. Okay, when this is done, I'll put my feet up, let the magical dusting fairies come and clean up my workshop, and then I'll bring you back and we'll take a look at what we've done. Well, there we go. One pine bowl which has been lovingly turned, burnt and coloured as a gift for my son and his partner Cal. Well, there you are, guys. I hope you like it, and I hope it gives you many years of fantastic service. I must admit, when I started this project, I thought it was going to be easier than it was. There was a nice tight grain on the piece of pine that was brought along by Bob, so thank you very much indeed, Bob. And I thought it would turn okay, but when we started turning it, the end grain problems we had really were quite significant. But through very careful sharpening, high-speed turning, and then a reasonable amount of sanding at the end, we managed to get something which is really quite nice. The technique we used to burn the surface and then sand away the charring between the growth lines has worked incredibly well. This is the kind of piece that you really want to just keep on touching. And if people keep on touching it, then the patina, the luster on this surface is just going to increase over the years as people deposit the oil from their hands over this piece, because it really just needs to be touched. Sorry, a horrible thought just went through my mind saying, shall I keep it? But no, I won't keep it. I will give it to the guys and let them use it. Okay, so I think the best thing we can say from all this is that wood is wood, whether it's pine or mahogany, and treat with care, it can all be just as beautiful. And even the grain pattern inside, without it being burnt and charred away, still looks absolutely amazing. So next time we get a piece of pine, I won't be so scared. I'll just get it on the lathe and give it a go. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things. And don't forget, as per the announcement earlier on, the giveaway is going to be happening very soon. So if you didn't see that, go and watch it again and you'll know how to enter. So lastly, a huge thanks to Bob Edwards for bringing this piece along, and also a massive thank you to Shaq, Carol and Tonya, who supported me again this week through buying me a coffee. If you do want to support the channel, then the link is going to be at the end. Of course, any donation that is received is put straight back into the channel so we can carry on and do more and more wonderful projects. So apart from that, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.